Time management is one of the hardest things to get right in chess. It can feel like you're several hundred rating points lower rated than you deserve to be because of it. It can be extremely daunting to try and fix as well. The solution presents itself simply as calculate faster, which leads you to believe that you're just naturally slow at chess. No matter what level you are, absolutely everyone has problems with time management. Even right now, we're seeing the two World Chess Championship players struggle with their time. In today's video, I'm going to be going through some things that you can apply to your game to help you fix your time management. Before we do start though, I want to say that this really only applies to rapid and classical formats. Bullet might as well be an entirely different game because of the sharper time conditions, and the same can be said about Blitz if you're playing anything below 5 minutes. It's completely normal for your rapid rating to be a lot higher than your Blitz rating. My Blitz is around 300 elo lower rated than my rapid simply because I don't have enough time to calculate. If we look at my insights, I lose 40% of my Blitz games by timeout, compared to the average of 23%. However, in my rapid games, I lose next to no games on time. With that being said, let's look at some things you can be doing to fix your time management in the rapid and classical time controls to stop you losing by timeout. Think on your opponent's clock. Using your opponent's clock wisely can dramatically improve your overall time management and decision making. Here's how. Use their time to ask yourself, what is my opponent threatening? Look for their most threatening ideas, followed by their more passive options that simply improve their position. On top of this, look for potential blunders your opponent might make to save your precious time later on. Consider how you'll respond to each of their reasonable moves. If you've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 likely moves, prepare a response for each so you're ready to act quickly when their turn ends. Take a step back and assess the overall position. What is your long-term plan? Are there any weaknesses in either side's pawn structure? Which pieces are most and least effective? If you already have a move planned, but have extra time, consider alternate strategies. Sometimes, during your opponent's turn, you might find a better option or refine your understanding of the position. Absolutely no time should be wasted on your opponent's clock. You should never be sitting back just waiting for them to play a move. Don't become too attached to one idea either. If your opponent surprises you with an unexpected move, be prepared to adapt. By thinking on your opponent's clock, you effectively have more time for every move you make. It's a habit that separates efficient players to those who find themselves in time trouble constantly. Learn proper theory against everything. Knowing proper opening theory is absolutely essential in terms of managing your time correctly. It might seem very straightforward, but here's how mastering opening preparation can help. By having a solid foundation of theory, you'll avoid spending precious time figuring out how to respond to your opponent's moves. This allows you to reserve your clock for critical middle game decisions. On top of this, players who are unprepared in the opening phase are more likely to get caught off guard by common traps and gambits. Learning proper theory ensures you recognize and sidestep these tricks, saving both time and material. Knowing your lines also reduces indecision. When you recognize the position on the board, you can play confidently without second-guessing your choices or wasting time considering suboptimal moves. Memorizing moves is helpful, but understanding the plans behind those moves is even more important. For instance, knowing the purpose of pawn breaks, piece placement, and typical attacking ideas allows you to adapt even if your opponent deviates from theory. Occasionally, you'll play opponents who play odd or unorthodox openings. You should have a general approach for handling these situations too, like sticking to principles of rapid development, controlling the center, and ensuring king safety instead of trying to immediately punish what looks like a subpar opening. By learning proper opening theory, not only will you play your openings faster, but you'll get better positions and enter the middle game with a time advantage. Learn book endgames. Mastering specific book endgames can dramatically improve your time usage in the final phase of the game. These endgames have well-established solutions that, once learned, can save you a lot of time in the endgame. Not only will learning these endgames allow you to play faster and more efficiently, but they'll allow you to transpose into those endgames much more confidently. Here are some intermediate book endgames to get you started. The Lucina position. This is an essential endgame for converting a winning rook and pawn advantage. Knowing the Lucina allows you to quickly create a bridge and promote your pawn without needing to calculate every move. The Philidor position. A must-know defensive position where the defending side can hold a draw by positioning the king in the right spot and using the rook to stop the opposing pawn from advancing. The Vancouver position. A defensive method for holding a draw in situations where the opponent has a rook and pawn. The key is to cut off the opponent's king while blocking the pawn's promotion. Mastering this will save time when you're on the defensive. By mastering these key book endgames, you'll be able to play them absolutely automatically when the situation arises. Don't look for gold where there is none. In chess, it's tempting to chase after what appears to be a winning opportunity, but sometimes there just isn't one. Here's why focusing on realistic chances rather than forcing something on the board that's not there can help with your time usage. Many players get fixated on finding a brilliant tactical shot, even when there's no real tactical advantage available. For example, you might spot an attractive looking combination, but if it doesn't lead to a concrete advantage, it's much better to move on and focus on safer options. Chasing false tactics wastes time and can lead to blunders. The likelihood is you should stick to safe positional play. If the position doesn't suggest an immediate tactical opportunity, don't force it. Instead, focus on improving your position gradually. Think about developing your pieces, controlling key squares, and improving your pawn structure. These strategic moves might not appear flashy, but they set you up for long-term success. When a potential tactical opportunity presents itself, ask yourself, am I really gaining something by taking this risk? If the answer is no, it's better to play more conservatively and maintain your time advantage. If you don't have a clear way to improve your position or capitalize on your opponent's weaknesses, don't waste time looking for an elusive goldmine. Instead, simplify the position, trade pieces, exchange pawns, and avoid complex, unclear situations where you might run into time pressure. Instead of searching for an unrealistic knockout blow, focus on building a solid, sustainable plan. Look for moves that improve your piece activity, control the center, or create subtle threats over time. These incremental improvements are often more effective than a desperate, time-consuming search for a flashy tactic. Also, not every game needs to end with a decisive result. If you're in a position where you can't find a clear way forward, or if your opponent is playing well, it's okay to aim for a draw. Looking for gold when none exists can often backfire and leave you scrambling in a lost position. By avoiding looking for tactical opportunities that simply don't exist, your time usage in games will be much better. By avoiding unrealistic tactical opportunities, your time usage is going to be a lot more efficient, and you'll make moves that align with the position's reality. Abandon unclear tactical ideas. Sometimes a tactic is just too complicated for your skill level. In chess, not every tactical idea is worth pursuing, especially if it's very unclear. Focusing on concrete, clear tactics will not only result in you playing better moves, but it'll also result in you being much more efficient with your time. Unclear tactical ideas require significant mental effort to analyze, and even if you invest the time, you may not find a concrete gain. The longer you spend calculating an unclear tactic, the more time you burn on your clock. It's often better to move on to a more straightforward plan. Before diving into complex tactics, evaluate whether it's even worth exploring. Ask yourself, do I have enough information to calculate the entire sequence of moves? Is there a clear, measurable benefit to this tactic? For example, winning material or gaining a decisive advantage. If you can't answer these questions confidently, abandon the tactic. If a tactic feels too complicated or unclear, consider simplifying the position instead. Trade some pieces off the board, centralize your pieces, or look for a more straightforward plan. Clearer positions are often easier to manage in both terms of time and strategic execution. Many players get fixated on executing a tactical idea just because they spot it, even if it's not guaranteed to work. Chasing after a complicated tactic that isn't entirely clear can lead to blunders or missed opportunities. If you're not sure if it'll work, let it go and look for an easier plan. Sometimes the best course of action is to prioritize improving your position rather than forcing a tactical sequence. Tactics often arise from good positioning. Improving piece activity and controlling key squares can lead to tactical opportunities naturally, without risking time on unclear ideas. If you have doubts about a tactical sequence, it's usually a sign that it's not worth pursuing. Trust your instincts. If the tactic feels risky or unclear, step back and refocus on safer, more reliable moves. By abandoning unclear tactics, not only are you going to save time, but you're also going to make less blunders. This helps keep the clock running efficiently and also saves that time for more critical moments in the game. Critical versus tactical. Understanding the difference between critical and tactical is absolutely essential in using your time most efficiently. It's something that people get very confused about, so here's how to distinguish between the two positions. Critical positions are moments in the game where the outcome may hinge on a few key moves. These positions usually arise when both players are nearing the end of their opening or early middle game. and the next few moves can significantly influence the balance of the game. Critical positions often require deep thought and careful consideration to make the right move. Here are some key characteristics of a critical position. A critical position typically involves an imbalance, such as a material or positional advantage, a king in danger, or a poorly coordinated piece. A move in a critical position often impacts the game's long-term dynamics, so it's important to consider how each decision will affect the game. Now let's look at tactical positions. Tactical positions are moments where specific combinations or sharp calculations can lead to immediate gains, such as winning material, delivering checkmate, or gaining a significant positional advantage. These positions require you to find concrete moves that either exploit or neutralize a specific weakness. What's important is that in tactical positions, sometimes there are multiple good moves as opposed to just one. Here are some key characteristics about tactical positions. Tactical positions often involve short-term solutions, such as capturing material or achieving a quick checkmate. They tend to be focused on immediate moves rather than long-term planning. In tactical positions, you must rely on your ability to recognize common tactical motifs, such as forks, pins, skewers, discovered attacks, and checks. Successful tactics require precise calculation. You must calculate not only your move, but your opponent's response and the resulting position. By understanding the difference between tactical and critical positions, you can allocate your time more appropriately to moves that matter more. A lot of players spend way too much time deciding between one tactic and another tactic that results in the exact same kind of advantage. So be sure not to confuse tactical with critical. Bail out of attacks with material compensation. When you're on the attack but there's no clear path to checkmate, sometimes it's better to just grab material and end your attack. Not only will this maintain your advantage, but it'll stop you from getting flagged so often. If your attack isn't leading to checkmate, continuing to pursue it can be a waste of valuable time. By switching gears and focusing on material gain, you can simplify the position and save time on moves that don't bring progress. Grabbing material can lead to a more straightforward game where you no longer need to calculate complex tactical ideas. This means fewer time-consuming decisions and faster, more confident moves as you head into the endgame. Taking material when your attack stalls allows you to shift to a more solid, calculated approach. You'll spend less time trying to force a checkmate and more time converting your material advantage into a win. Pursuing a non-productive attack can lead to overthinking and time pressure. Grabbing material keeps the game moving forward, helps you stay focused, and ensures you don't run out of time by overanalyzing a position with no clear payoff. By bailing out of unsuccessful attacks with material compensation, you save a lot of time on the clock and keep the game simple, allowing you to win a lot easier. Cheese draws. In fast-paced games where you're running low on time, sometimes even if you're completely winning, it's better to go for the draw. If you're low on time and unable to play for a win, look for ways to force a perpetual check or take all of your opponent's material to force a draw. Although there are obviously other ways to draw games, these two are the most common in time trouble. In time scrambles, the threat of a draw can make your opponent hesitate or miscalculate, forcing them to burn more time on decisions. Your opponent can just shuffle things around if they think you're trying to push for a win. Oftentimes, the win is obviously out of reach and your opponent won't bother to calculate. However, if there is a more short-term draw opportunity, it forces your opponent to calculate if they want to win on time. When you're under time pressure, simplifying the game by aiming for a draw can help you conserve your time, rather than trying to play for a win in a complex position. Play for a safe outcome to avoid losing unnecessarily. By recognizing drawing opportunities even in positions that are completely winning, you avoid the pressure of trying to force a win when you're low on time. Turning a guaranteed loss on time into a draw is a much better result than you think. Practice pre-moving checkmates. There are multiple endgame scenarios where you can almost pre-move the entire endgame sequence if you've practiced it sufficiently. Practicing pre-moving checkmates can save precious time when the game is near its end. For example, the most basic one is the simple queen and king endgame, which can be completely pre-moved if you know what you're doing. Some people have extremely inefficient checkmating techniques in various ending positions. For example, a lot of people still use this awful rook checkmating pattern they learnt when they were beginners. You can't pre-move this at all because it's a 50-50 chance on which way your opponent will move. But if you use your king and rook simultaneously, cutting off the king, you don't let your opponent have a choice in where their king goes. all your progress is immediate. There are many other examples of this, but I'll let you explore them on your own. But in general, you'll be able to save precious time in the most critical moment of the game if you learn to pre-move your checkmates. Use waiting moves. In certain situations, using waiting moves, or moves that don't alter the position but force your opponent to play a move, can be great in terms of using your time effectively. Here's how waiting moves can improve your time management. Waiting moves place pressure on your opponent to come up with a solution or move. Waiting moves place pressure on your opponent to come up with a solution to the position. This forces them to make decisions, eating up their clock whilst you conserve your time. Sometimes it's better to make a move that doesn't drastically change the position but forces your opponent to make moves or decide on a plan. This gives you time to think while your opponent is using their clock to figure out how to respond. It should be noted, however, these waiting moves should be reserved for when you don't know what to play. If there's an obvious improvement to make, play that move instead. If you're ahead or have a solid advantage, using waiting moves can force your opponent into a passive position, simplifying the game and reducing the need for complex calculations. This keeps your time usage efficient and reduces the chances of blundering due to time pressure. Using waiting moves effectively can help manage your clock better and avoid getting in time scrambles at the end of the game. This allows more deliberate and thoughtful moves on the following turns. The Botvinnik Technique. One powerful technique that can improve your time management skills was invented by Botvinnik. He recommends a unique training method that revolves around your time being the top priority of the game. The idea is simple. Practice games where the clock is your primary concern. The goal is to never fall into time trouble, no matter what's happening on the board. Even if you're in a difficult position, you must avoid getting into time trouble. Many people don't even know where their weaknesses lie in their games when they have time management issues. It seems like you're getting better positions than your opponents, but the reality is this is only because you're spending more time calculating than they are. If you spend the same amount of time that they were spending and weren't flagging, would you have gotten an advantageous position to begin with? After each game, take note of the moments when you felt rushed or blundered an advantage in. Those are the areas that need improvement. Were you unsure of your opening, struggling with a complex tactic, or were you too slow in the endgame? These moments highlight what you need to work on. By making time management the focal point of your training, you'll eventually find that you can handle the pressure of the clock more comfortably. This will help you during actual games, especially in faster time controls. This tip makes time trouble an active focus point for players rather than just something to avoid. It's a smart way to prevent time-related mistakes and just improve your overall play. It can be hard for you as a player to pinpoint which one of these tips in the video that you need to improve upon. The Botvinnik Technique answers that question, drawing out your weakness in a realistic setting. And that's all I have for you today on fixing your time management no matter what level you are. Time management in longer time controls is something that can absolutely be fixed, but if you're having the same problem in Blitz or Bullet, it can be a lot harder. There's a reason that seasoned and well-respected grandmasters are constantly accusing Blitz and Bullet players of cheating. The game needs to be played with an entirely different mindset in these sharper time conditions. I myself haven't quite made the adjustment to Blitz and Bullet yet, so it's completely understandable if you haven't either. Not to mention, it's not a necessity to be a good Blitz or Bullet player. It doesn't define you as a chess player. Other than that, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you are interested, I do offer coaching on my website in the description below. It allows me to continue posting these videos for you guys as they take around 10 hours to write, record, and edit. Apart from that, let me know in the comments below what other videos you'd like to see on this channel, and I will see you all in the next video.